quiet pulse of an evening room, a single chair sits empty, bathed in the soft glow of fading light. It waits, not for someone to arrive, but for someone to stay. Outside, the cold wind carries whispers of footsteps that approach and then retreat. There is an ache in this space, a longing woven finely like a threadbare tapestry subjected to too many hands yearning but never quite grasping. It is the space between presence and absence, where desire lives in shadow, hollow yet persistent. We watch a figure on the edge of a crowd, eyes fixed on someone who seems made of mist, close but unreachable, a breath away from touch, but forever slipping beyond reach. This figure moves forward and then hesitates, caught between courage and retreat, chasing a fading silhouette that offers no answers, no embrace. Why is it that we are drawn to those who hold themselves apart? Why do we find ourselves chasing after absence, craving the warmth of a connection that remains just out of reach? It is a silent dance of pursuit and withdrawal, a paradox wrapped in emotional tension, a story told not in words, but in the spaces between. What is it about unavailability that calls out so powerfully to the hearts of the chasers? At first glance, the story of the chaser seems simple, an endless pursuit of someone who does not or cannot reciprocate. But beneath this narrative lies a deeper paradox. The very thing we long for most, connection, safety, love, is often mirrored by its apparent opposite, distance, coolness, absence. This paradox reveals a hidden complexity in the human heart. Psychologists have long studied this phenomenon through the lens of attachment theory, a framework that explores how early relational experiences shape our patterns of intimacy and desire. Insecure attachment styles, especially anxious attachment, prime some to become seekers of elusive affection, drawn to those who seem emotionally unavailable. Their pursuit is not merely about the other person. It is a reflection of an internal longing, to fill a void, to mend a part of self that feels unseen or unsafe. Yet this longing becomes entangled with cognitive dissonance, a mental tension held between conflicting beliefs and feelings, the hope that things might change against evidence that they might not. The chase becomes a way to sustain a fragile hope by retreating from the pain of reality. Emotional projection too colors this dance, where the chaser sees not just the other's presence, but their own needs and wounds, reflected in the shadow of the unavailable figure. The very absence becomes a canvas for imagined closeness and hidden desires. To understand the psychology of the chaser is to enter a space of bittersweet tension, where yearning feels like strength, and holding on masks a deeper fear of loss. It is the paradox of seeking a light that seems ever just out of reach, yet feels essential for survival. We begin by tracing how attachment theory illuminates the emotional blueprint behind the chaser's story. Early experiences of unpredictability, inconsistency, or emotional distance from caregivers can imprint an anxious attachment style, where the self becomes hypervigilant to signs of rejection or abandonment. This style manifests in adult relationships as an intense need for reassurance and connection, often aimed at partners who are emotionally distant. The chase is a subconscious attempt to secure the elusive bond once missed in childhood. Yet this pursuit is fraught with complexity. Cognitive dissonance plays a critical role in maintaining the chase despite persistent unavailability. The chaser holds paradoxical beliefs simultaneously: the conviction that the unavailable person will eventually respond with love, and the contradicting evidence that they do not. This contradiction traps the chaser in a cycle of hope and hurt, where denial and rationalization soften the sting of rejection. Emotional projection deepens this experience by coloring the unavailable person not just with reality, but with the chaser's own unmet needs and fantasies. The chaser projects qualities, warmth, care, availability, onto someone whose true inner world remains obscured, creating an illusion of closeness that sustains the emotional investment. The cinematic image of a hand reaching toward a fading shadow captures this beautifully. The closer the hand comes, the more the shadow slips away, both beckoning and elusive. This chase scripts a narrative of pursuit defined less by the other's actual presence and more by an internal yearning mapped onto absence. There is also a quiet melancholia woven through this dynamic. It is the grief of not being seen, not being held, combined with a fragile hope that if only the chase continues, the desired union might emerge. The tension between desire and frustration creates a rhythm of approach and retreat, of holding on and letting go, that shapes the emotional landscape. Through storytelling, we witness not just the external pursuit, but the internal struggle of identity and belonging playing out in this dance. The chaser is not simply a desperate lover, but a human being navigating complexity, fear, and longing. This layered psychological insight invites us to hold both empathy and clarity, to sense the depth of the chase without judgment, and to recognize the profound human need behind it. It is here, in this blend of insight and emotion, that the paradox unfolds fully. Falling for someone emotionally unavailable is less about their absence and more about our own relationship with ourselves, our fears, needs, and the aching hope for connection that defines us all. To reflect on the psychology of the chaser is to move beyond theory into the realm of feeling. We sit with the ache, the quiet knot of longing that tightens in the chest at the thought of someone seen but unseen, held but withheld. It is a loneliness that lives in proximity, a solitude felt in shared silence. There is a particular pain in chasing unavailability because it is a relationship with absence itself. The absence of responsiveness, the absence of invitation, the absence of warmth. Yet within this absence, a story unfolds about selves divided and fractured, about hopes inscribed on shadows. Understanding this helps us soften the story we tell about ourselves and others. We begin to see the chaser's journey not as folly, not as weakness, but as an expression of profound yearning and courage. The courage to seek connection despite risk and uncertainty. We glimpse how early relational wounds shape this pattern, not as a life sentence, but as a narrative thread that we can gently hold and explore. In this reflection, boundaries between pursuer and pursued blur. The emotionally unavailable is not merely a figure to be blamed or blamed for pain, but a symbol of our universal entanglement with fear and hope, presence and absence. Realizing this enacts a subtle shift in the feeling tone, from frustration to compassion, from confusion to understanding. We begin to feel the bittersweet relief of seeing the chase as a mirror, reflecting inner landscapes where love is desired but also feared. It is here that emotional projection unravels, revealing the truest desire, not for a perfect other, but for integration within ourselves. The melancholy that once held us captive now softens into a tender acceptance of longing as part of the human condition. This insight allows us to hold paradox without needing immediate resolution, to live with questions rather than rushing to answers. The emotional unavailability of another becomes a doorway into the vast, intricate space of our own hearts, a space where loneliness and hope coexist in fragile balance. The story of the chaser does not end in finding the other, but in meeting oneself. The paradox remains that we seek connection in absence, and yet through this very pursuit, we discover the shape of our own longing. It wasn't about the unreachable, but about the undercurrent within us that calls for belonging. It wasn't about fixing another, but about the presence we bring to our own brokenness. The hand reaches out not simply to grasp, but to learn how to hold and be held, not by others alone, but by the self. The fading shadow is not a loss, but a reflection, offering a quiet invitation to inhabit spaces within that once felt cold and empty. As the chase quiets, a new rhythm emerges, one of gentle presence, of patient witnessing, of love that is both given and received from inside out. This is not the end of yearning, but the beginning of a deeper companionship with ourselves. It is the recognition that strength lives in vulnerability, that love is not possession but presence, that the dance between holding on and letting go is the very music of our hearts. The chaser learns that the true pursuit is not after another's affection, but toward wholeness, a wholeness shaped by acceptance, grace, and the quiet courage to be seen exactly as we are. And in this, there is a tender peace, subtle and profound, inviting us to rest between shadows and light, between absence and presence. It was never about perfection. It was about presence,